The following video will be about the video game Rust and Valve's Steam app store. And yes, the answer is, as of today, you have to be running Windows 10 to run Rust and Steam. But when did these changes happen? Because obviously there were older versions. Now, trying to get a straight answer out of this was surprisingly difficult, so here you are. Rust at one point ran on 1 gigabyte of video RAM for your video card as being the heavy lifting part of it, 4 gigabytes of RAM to run the game itself, 2 gigahertz processor dual-core, which is not that extreme sounding. It needed a 64-bit CPU, and it needed broadband internet. But it would allow you to run it, if you wanted to push it down a little bit, under DirectX 9C and under Windows XP Service Pack 3. Now, there's a hack for Service Pack 3 that makes Windows XP turn into a 64-bit version. So that would be an update that would be applied to it that would give you this weird, if you're not aware of it, it's a variation on Windows Server. So it's not really XP anymore, but it's using the engine for something you'd run a web server for. Anyway, then it changed to 64-bit Windows 7 or better, because obviously it didn't even have Vista listed at one point. But anyway, here we go. Then it was only Windows 7, and that stopped happening until when it was 2019, December 17th or thereabouts. Basically before Christmas 2019, they decided that you had to use Windows 8 with Rust. It doesn't matter what other programs we're talking about. That was when Windows 7 stopped being officially supported, and then you had to use Windows 8. Now, Windows 8 would work until 2023, August 30th. Basically around September, you couldn't run the Windows 8 operating system and play Rust. But if you still had version 2.3.8 and you had Windows 8, it kept running. I kept seeing people playing it saying, yeah, I haven't updated anything. I'm running, and I remember them saying, I'm running the Windows 8 version of Rust, and they were doing that a week ago. Yeah, just color me crazy. And one of them was even saying, yeah, I'm running Windows 7, and it wasn't 2019. This is a video from 2021. So, okay. And then Steam-powered App Store is where I'm getting most of these time and date stamps from. Now, other websites stated as of January this year, they had people running Windows 7 versions of Rust showing up on their server. Now, I don't even understand this. If you're playing a video game, and if you allow it to submit statistics about your computer to figure out what might go wrong in the game, it'll say what version you're running. So someone's sitting there running Windows 7 2 weeks ago because the guy was complaining, what are these people running Windows 7 and Rust? How? I sure as hell would like to know. It's almost like they just told the game not to update itself. Well, it's going to be missing features, right? No, apparently it's not, because they're able to play. Or maybe it has better performance because it's an older version. And, well, the newest versions want 25 gigabytes of available space, but at one time it was only 10 gigabyte of hard drive space or 14 gigabyte hard drive space. Interesting. Anyway, January of this year, Steam decided to drop support for Windows 7, 8, and 8.1. Now, what did that do to the older clients? Originally, they said it would just make it to where you couldn't run the Steam client, and that may or may not lock you out of things you just finished paying for right after Christmas. Right after Christmas, I guess right before Christmas would be, there's no good time to turn off shit you paid for, because that's in effect what's going on. Then the backlash happened. New wording. Existing Steam client installations will no longer receive updates. Oh, gee, you're turning off something I absolutely hate, auto update. And it would, on the operating system, this will also not include security updates. They love scaring you with, security updates. Now, I'm running a version of Windows 7 that contains Windows 8 code. And I ran what I found was a rip-off, hacked version of Rust. It was a single-player only version of it. Somebody hacked together by ripping open the files in an editor for Unity, downgraded it to older version. Basically, they've used a really old version of the Unity Rust-based engine that ran Rust and just imported as much shit in as they could, and they put it out as a pirated copy. Obviously, I'm not going to run it, but I ran it in a virtual machine, or actually I ran it on a separate hard drive and then erased the hard drive. But the point is, some of you watching my channel know that I'll say there is no technical reason for something. Steam not letting you run something compatible with XP, even though they have programs that they're selling through Steam that only require Windows 95, seems a little weird. Also, someone mentioned that this is because they've changed the App Store for Steam to use a Chromium system, and then nobody talked about it. And, pushing people to install a version of Windows that literally everyone on the internet hates, Windows 11 suggested, to run Steam, which is just really a glorified web app looking at a web page, so you can download things and run them. And you just have to leave Steam running in the background so it can authenticate that you actually are using your Steam ID and communicate with the program. So, to review, you were able to run Windows 7, Windows 8, and Windows 8.1 up until this year for the Steam app. And link below in the description, blog light wo.net Steam client downgrade survival kit.html, because it tells you how to download the Steam 32-bit client that runs apparently on all the way down to maybe even XP. It's a zip file, and then tell it to download the Windows 7 files so it'll work fine until they stop letting it work, because they told everybody they were going to basically shit-can things they recently paid for right after Christmas. Wow. Really? You just downloaded, you got your game, you got your Steam ID, you got your Robux, and now you can't run it. Well, you can run the programs. Can you? I want to point out that the Steam powered App Store said you had to switch to Windows 10. Again, they had to say you do that. Midway, August 2023. But all the blogs talking about what you needed said you could run it on Windows 7. So even then, they may have been saying something that wasn't true, or they were pushing only the Windows 8 app at the time, and then the Windows 10 app. Why? I guess we all have to be on the same footing, because me running, like, let's say, Windows XP mixed with Windows 8 files like I run is considered hacking or something. I don't know. So, anyway, to review. Steam, unless you download deliberately the downgrade kit, see link below in the description. It's munged because YouTube flags every goddamn link these days. Unless you use this very convoluted method, you are not allowed to have an operating system stupider than Windows 10. Okay. And on Rust, even though people have been playing Rust under Windows 7 on a bunch of YouTube channels somehow, like a couple of weeks ago, you weren't able to officially run Rust since Christmas 2019 somehow. 2019, 20, 21, 22. That's 3 years of people doing something that's supposed to be impossible somehow. If any of you know exactly what I need to type into Google to find the older version of Rust that would work fine, I might consider downloading the Steam app, set up a Steam ID and all that, and see if I can play the dang thing. $40 worth. There's a time delay where you can get your money back out. And if I can, I would download the Steam executable and get it to download, blah, blah, blah. And then it would ask me to put in my Steam ID if I can get it working. If I can't get it working, I don't have a Steam ID to put in. Fine. And I could just say, yeah, I want a refund on my copy of Rust. And then I would get permission for it to run Rust and then try to run the older version. If I couldn't do it, I'd just say, yeah, I want my money back. There's a grace period for it. Or having them apply it to give me Robux, and I'll play some Roblox version of Rust, because it apparently still works on Windows Vista. But the Steam utility won't let you just... hey, I wonder if Half-Life, which only required, I think it was Windows 95, still works. Oh, that's right. I have a CD version, so there's nothing Valve can do to sabotage my ability to use something I paid good money for. Also linked below in the description to a video that ends in CZAL about this whole debacle. It's not a debacle, it's just progress, says everybody in the comment section. Oh, by the way, and all the help forums where people said, why would you want to run your video game on the operating system you installed it on? Why wouldn't you want to update to the latest op system that you're going to have to sit there for days and days uninstalling the garbage Microsoft keeps putting in and trying to find every copy of every updater to shut off so it stops changing what your computer's running? 90% of the security problems that you're trying to patch out are solved by removing things you didn't ask for that Microsoft stuck in there so that they could try to make sure it would work really good with some other product they wanted to work with and make sure it does a lot of telemetry to people doing market research. Or they could just uninstall that and the computer could just sit there very quietly and not chew up your electric bill when it's doing nothing and somehow running the hard drive like a rate tape. Anyway, the game had worked on relatively simple software all the way down to Windows XP at one point, and now we've upgraded ourselves to the point that we have to download an operating system that takes up an immense amount of space, is not giving you anything better, and is crap in my opinion, and in many other people's opinion, and is a security problem. Because it's more secure than Windows 7 that literally does nothing unless they bitch slap it into doing it. I'm sorry, this is bullshit. But anyway, yes, links below in the description for a video complaining like me, and another link to a blog.lite, yada yada, where you can learn how to install the really old 32-bit Steam app that worked just fine, and still does, apparently. And I'm going to go look for, let's say, Rust version 2.2, or 2.20. Let's see if I can find it. I wasn't thinking of pirating Rust and running it as an offline program. I really wasn't. But now I'm not allowed to play it. Now that sucks.